Chapter 1. The Cathedral of the Sun. March 3rd, 1973. "Hey!" Gabriel braked the truck at the welcome sound of his friend's voice. "I packed you something for the road." Ezra leaned in the window and handed Gabriel a brown bag. "You didn't have to do that, Ezra. I didn't even think you'd be awake this early." "Cinnamon rolls. My specialty. They soothe the soul, son. And there's some hot coffee in that thermos. I even threw in a few pieces of jerky for that giant canine of yours." Gabriel chuckled and reached over to pat Rio's head. The husky had appeared at the mention of jerky. Ezra took off his reading glasses and let them dangle around his neck. He squinted as he looked directly into Gabriel's eyes. "The past colors our lives, young man, but we can't let it cripple our future. It's good to remember what's good to remember." Ezra swallowed and seemed to gather himself. "It's going to be a good day for you, son. Say hello to him for me." Gabriel nodded and put the truck in reverse. "I'll see you tonight, Ezra." Gabriel glimpsed Ezra in the rearview mirror. Ezra waved, then watched Gabriel drive away. "I don't think it's too much farther now, boy." Gabriel's pulse quickened as the trail gradient rose sharply. With every pant, steam puffed from his eager dog. The mist was thick and the air crisp as the glow of the morning sun gradually lit up the canyon. He had never been back to retrace the steps he and his father took to Splashfire Canyon. He'd never had the courage, until now. With every crunch of his boots on the terrain, Gabriel recalled memories of that fateful day. Soft flashes of scenes from his childhood emerged. Riding on his dad's shoulders, holding on to his dad's bushy blonde head as they ascended the trail. He remembered hearing his father laughing. He remembered the chipmunks' chatter. Gabriel paused for a moment to catch his breath and take in the surroundings. He looked up into the towering spruce and fir trees and then glanced back down the trail, noticing how far he'd come. A gentle breeze flowed up the trail as he drank in the morning air. He took a deep breath through his nose. Rio kept sniffing the trail ahead at least 30 yards or so. Then he circled back around and playfully sprinted to Gabriel's feet. "It's hard to believe it's been 17 years, Rio." Rio chomped his jaws and whined. 17 years since 5-year-old Gabriel witnessed that life-changing scene. Now he felt 1,000,000 miles from those grief-drenched days growing up in Cairo, Kansas with his mom. His days were hard there, but with the help of a determined single mom and some providential characters, Gabriel grew up safe and loved. The Cartwrights loved him, like the best of grandparents. Miss Collingsworth knew him better than anyone, believed in him and understood his sense of loss. His buddy Jimmy Bly looked out for him, and fittingly was the one who invited him back to experience what he was truly made for. The river never stopped calling. Gabriel reached into his pants pocket and pulled out a twice-folded piece of paper and opened it up. "Okay, Ezra, let's see how we're doing," Gabriel read aloud. "You'll come to a fork in the trail. Stay left." "Okay, we just did that." Gabriel glanced back down the trail. "In about 200 yards, you'll begin to hear the falls. The trail will curve back into the woods to the right, but don't let that fool you. Stay the course. Then it will turn back to the left, and in about 5 minutes you will run into a clearing overlooking Splashfire Canyon." Gabriel folded the paper back up and stuffed it in his pocket. "Okay, Rio, this is it." Gabriel took a deep breath, cinched his backpack a little tighter, and headed up the path. The smells of the forest pines were rich. As Gabriel wound his way back into the woods and then back toward the cliff on the narrow path, he could hear the roar of the cascading water in Splashfire. When he arrived at the clearing overlooking the falls, he took off his backpack and sat down on a fallen tree trunk to catch his breath. Rio sat down at attention on his hind legs facing the young man. Gabriel grabbed the fur of the dog's neck behind his ears with both hands and tussled him. It's like this place was just waiting for me to return. A memory played vividly in his mind's eye. He saw his father's strong right hand drawing a deep circle in the reddish-brown dirt, and his left hand dumping the bag of marbles. The Bennington marbles donned vivid oranges, blues, and purples, clacking off of each other. He saw his father look up at him. "Ready to play?" Gabriel heard it in his mind. The sound of the river thundered in the background. The cloudy mist ascended from the falls. Gabriel then heard the instruction of his father. "Don't go past this tree. Got it?" Gabriel walked up to the tree, the one he clung to as he watched his father go in after the kayaker. He leaned against it, staring down at the falls, and the memories moved faster. "Don't go, Dad! Don't go!" He heard his 5-year-old's terrified scream, his father waving his vest shouting, "Danger! Danger!" The kayaker going over the falls. Then, a flash of his father's hand reaching out of the torrent. In this moment, it was like his ears closed up, the roar of the river becoming muffled. Gabriel carefully scaled down the graveled canyon wall, using the trees and rocks to brace himself. He made his way to the river's edge, just over the moss-covered boulder, the last place he saw his father alive. He sat down facing the water as it powered by him, the cold spray hitting his skin as the air pushed the mist from the falls. His heart was in his throat. A solitary droplet spilled out of his eye and down his cheek as he stared at the rushing current. Rio joined his side, as if he knew exactly what Gabriel needed in that moment. He wiped his face on his sleeve. "Hey, boy, it's good to remember, right? How great he was?" "Yeah." Rio stopped panting for a few seconds and tipped his snout up at Gabriel. He put his arm around him. "I had 5 good years with him, Rio. 5 great years." He gained his composure. A shriek high above the canyon interrupted his thoughts. An albino red-tailed hawk floated effortlessly high overhead. Gabriel smiled as the hawk circled around the canyon for a few moments before gliding into a tree about 50 feet up the canyon wall on the other side of the water. The raptor perched at the top of a pine, as if to watch the young man and his dog over the canyon. "How about that, Rio? I think he's with us. He's still with us. Let's go, boy. There's one more place we need to visit today." Gabriel got up and wiped the moist dirt and clay off of the back of his pants. He took his first step to climb the steep grade back up to the clearing where he left his backpack. As he turned, he came face to face with a deep carving in the bark of a bright-colored silver birch tree to his left. It was a deep, squiggly, horizontal line, a groove about 4 inches wide. He paused for a few seconds and ran his fingers over the carving. "I wonder who etched this here. What does it mean?" He continued his ascent. Rio beat him up the hill and watched from above. "It's not fair. You have 4 legs." Rio started to bark. Gabriel glanced over his shoulder toward the object of Rio's attention. Across the river, Gabriel thought he saw a human figure slide behind a tree. His heart fluttered. He thought he was alone. The person was at least 100 yards downstream, so it was hard to get a good look. The bouldered terrain on the other side was rough and steep. Gabriel watched for a moment as the man wearing a black knit cap and red jacket scurried behind some more trees and then out of sight. Rio kept barking. Gabriel finished his climb up to the clearing. Maybe it was just another hiker. Who would be this far out here, and especially on that side of the river?